What is up, people, and welcome back to another video on this channel. Today we are going to make a powerful crossbow, and this isn't gonna be one of our regular weapons because this one I think might be lethal. So here's just a disclaimer to, if you're gonna do this, just be careful. So let's go. So how it's gonna work is it's gonna be an elastic crossbow. So I bought some of these like health elastic bands used for training and exercise. So right now you can see kind of the thickness of it and the resistance. So yeah, but we're not gonna start off by using them. We're gonna start off by cutting some wood. So this is the kind of wood that we're gonna be using, and we're gonna cut it into two parts. But because we are going to be a little bit more planned out with this project, we're not just gonna simply glue it to here. We are gonna make a hole here and then down here and take that chip out, and then do the same over here so they can go together. And this will be more clear in a minute. So now, as you can see, I cut out like a chip of the wood. And now we're gonna do the same thing with the smaller one, but right in the middle of it, so it can go together like this. So as you can see, there's also a hole over here. And now if I take these two parts and line them up, then they match perfectly. But of course we're gonna glue them together and screw them together and everything like that. So as you can see, they're now stuck together with 4 screws and a whole bunch of glue that I've put around it. And now, like, this isn't going anywhere. They're just fused together. Every rubber band, no matter how big it is, it always has a point where it just doesn't get more stronger than that. It's not really too big, but I might even not have it double layered. We'll just see how it comes out. But now I'm just gonna show you how it's gonna work. There's like a point right at the back of the crossbow, and then there are gonna be 2 wheels over here where the rubber band goes through, and it goes kind of into a triangle. And then when we pull back, the wheels spin, allowing it to stretch all over the rubber band, not just from these 2 points. And then we drag it down to here and fasten it over here in the lock mechanism. And then we can pull the trigger, the lock mechanism opens, and the rubber band shoots out. So to make the wheels, we're kind of gonna make a sandwich of wood where there is this thicker wood in the middle, which is a circular shape. We're gonna make 2 of those, and then we're gonna make 4 bigger circular shapes that will go together into like a sandwich, just like so. So I just cut the bigger wooden circles and I glued all of the wood together in a sandwich like I explained earlier. And now we're gonna take a screw that's long enough to go through these and also through the wood on the crossbow. The hole on the wood also needs to be big enough for the circles to move freely. So now I have drilled holes on both sides of the crossbow, and I'm just gonna take the wooden sandwich along with the screw and just screw it straight in the hole right here. So now it's kind of started to come together, and as you can see, the wooden circles, they spin because they're not attached to anything. So if you did not understand me earlier, I'll just give you a demonstration how this is gonna work. So as you can see, it's kind of in a triangular shape, but when you pull on this, the circles spin, so you get the full stretch on the entire rubber band, not just at the top. And then you lock it in place over here, and then when you unlock it, it shoots. So now it is time to make the locking mechanism. And I did make the place where the arrow sits a little bit higher, and I also made like a guide for the arrow so it goes straight. And for the locking mechanism, I made a straight hole over here through the crossbow, and then a hole that goes halfway down through the middle of the hole. So first I'm going to show you how we're going to do the locking mechanism, and then I'm going to show you how it works. So we are just going to take 3 of these big metal circles, and we are going to put them together to add a little bit of thickness to them. So first we are going to be cutting out a 90-degree part of the metal circles. We also want to take one of these and put it inside the circle, but it's too long, so we're gonna cut it in half. Just like so. And because we want it to be in the middle of the circles, we are going to have to make some room for the piece. And now we're gonna glue this all together. Okay, so I just glued all of it together, and now this is how it's looking. And now as you can see, the rod sticking out of it. And now to completely secure it, I'm just gonna wrap it all in some tape. Okay, so now because we need a fully secure hole in the middle, we are gonna take one of these and put them in the middle of this. And the only way for this to fit in here is to smooth out the edges. So now as you can see, we have completed the first part of the lock. And remember when I told you about this hole over here in the crossbow earlier? We are going to feed a rod through the first part of the lock, and then put the rod in between the part in the hole in the crossbow, so this part of the lock can move freely. And now we're just gonna glue the rod to this hole in the crossbow. Okay, but now we are going to make the trigger which unlocks the circle. So we are going to take another one of these, maybe 2 of these, and cut both of them in half, because we are gonna stack a bunch of these halves on top of each other, just like this. They are in a specific form, so they kind of form this 90-degree object. And the reason I cut these sideways like this is because there is a hole right here, and it has to be able to feed a rod through it. But if this is in the way, then that would be a problem. So this is the easiest way to do that. But it does mean that we have to glue it better together. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so I glued it together and put some tape around it and filled in the empty space with some wood. And now I'm gonna show you how we're gonna attach it to the crossbow. So the trigger goes right here, and a rod goes through it and goes here under and holds it in the same position. And then when you pull on the rubber band, you put it behind this hook right here, but the trigger is stopping it from moving. And then to release the lock, you pull on the trigger, it turns, and then the circle can turn. Okay, so now I am done attaching the lock, and as you can see, I put a rubber band in between the trigger and the circle, so it all pops back into place more smoother. So the rubber band goes over here and then gets hooked onto here. And in order to release the rubber band, you need to pull the trigger, and then the circle moves, and then the rubber band is free to shoot. So that's how the lock is gonna work. And now we're gonna have to build everything around that, as in the handle, the thing over the top so the rubber band doesn't just slip over the lock. And we also need to make the surface higher where the arrow is supposed to be, because the rubber band flies over here and goes above the arrow, and we don't want that. Okay, so as you can see, I have added the handle, which I made out of wood, and I also added a higher level on the crossbow where the arrow sits. But I did notice that the guidance that is over here for when it shoots is not enough to hold the arrow on the barrel. So as I was talking about earlier, I'm gonna add something on top of here and something that sits over here and pushes on the arrow just a little bit, not too much to resist the power of it shooting, but enough to keep it on the crossbow, and also to stay on the crossbow even if you shake it or if it's under impact or something like that. I made also another handle over here so I can hold it like this. And I also made like this box over here that you can open with Ziploc, and here's where I keep the leftover rubber band. So it basically just opens up like this, and then I can store the rubber band in here like so. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm actually gonna remove the rubber band, and then I'm gonna cover up everything I don't want painted, and then I'm gonna spray paint this all black. Okay, so this is how the crossbow is looking like now. I spray painted it black, and I also covered the wood in cardboard so it looked more clean. And now this is how the crossbow is looking like. Okay, so this is how the crossbow is looking like. A little bit of metal on it. So now really all that's left is just to make the arrows. So we're gonna take a wooden stick like this, and in order for it to match the crossbow, I'm gonna cut it in half, which makes it the perfect length, and it should look something like this. And then I bought these shells that you put on arrows, which is basically the tip. This is what makes the first contact with what you're shooting at, and this punctures right through. It has a pretty sharp tip, and we are basically gonna take the stick, and as you can see there's a hole on the tip, and that's how it acts as a shell. Originally I was gonna put it inside, make a hole straight down here and then put it inside, but it doesn't match. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna sand the tip down so it can go over, and then we're gonna sand around it, and then we're gonna tape it to secure it fully. I'll show you how I reload the crossbow. So I basically just take the rubber band that is over here, and as you can see it sometimes kind of rolls up on itself, so that's just a quick and easy fix. And then I just pull it back, pull it under the arrow lock, and then it locks automatically. And then I just put the arrow under this lock over here. Just like that. So it's all loaded up, and let's try and shoot it. Okay, well, I didn't really hit what I was aiming for, but I'll take it. I was wondering why the arrow wasn't puncturing the tree and sticking in it. And then I look at the arrow, and it shot so strongly that the tip broke off. I was gonna check how far the arrow shoots, but I realized quick that my garden isn't big enough for that. So I just calculated how fast the arrow moves through the air, how fast it shot across the 3 meters that I was measuring from where I stood to the tree. And I was recording footage at exactly 120 frames per second, and it took it 13 frames to move across that path. So in other words, it was moving about 28 meters a second, and that's pretty good, and it can definitely be lethal depending on where you shoot it. But it also depends on factors like if the crossbow shoots properly, if the arrow goes straight, and stuff like that, which doesn't always happen. But for the first time trying to make a lethal weapon, I would say that this is a win, and I am pretty happy about this. And of course it would have been simpler simply just to make a bow and arrow. It would be probably more lethal, but I want to make a lethal weapon with a trigger and overall a shooting weapon that you can hold and just simply pull the trigger. There are many things that I would have wanted to be able to fix, but with the knowledge and abilities that I have right now, I don't think I could have done it any better. So maybe in the future, but until then, I'll just admire this project. So thank you all guys very much for watching. I will see you very soon, and bye bye.